Hey everyone, this is Robert, and thank you for tuning into the show. And yeah, this has been quite an explosive start into the new year. And by explosive, I mean just really just all over the place. Like everybody's just kind of scrambling after what happened in January here in LA. So to all of those that have been affected, my heart goes out to all of you. And yeah, I know it's going to be a long recovery process. So here's fingers crossed that we'll be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel. But regardless, I'm just here to do this, and I'm just really happy that I have a very special guest here. We've been kind of talking about this for a little bit or so, but yeah, I was just really blown away by her amazing personality and just so willing to just chat about anything. So, we're just going to be discussing a lot of topics, including theater, voiceover, and pretty much the usual stuff that I do for the show. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Olivia here in the corner. So, thank you so much for joining me this morning
Hi,
on the
thanks for
podcast.
having me.
Yep, anytime, anytime. So, I guess to start this off as an introduction, like, you could just share a little bit about yourself, like, what is it that you do, what a day to day looks like, all that good jazz.
All right. So I'm Olivia, and I am an actor and a voice actor based in LA. But of course, unless you're kind of at the top of your game, I've also got a day job as well. So acting at the moment is something I'm working towards. It's more of a side gig that I'm trying to make my main gig. And I'm also a tour guide at Universal Studios here in Hollywood. And that's a fun little day job to have as well. So I've been acting since I was 6. I majored in theater, and yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Hey, you know what? Once I visit Universal, I may stop by and.
Yeah, I can get you through the line. You can skip the line,
Yeah,
just hop
just
aboard a
skip the
tram.
lines and then
Yeah,
just get to the good stuff.
exactly. Hear me talk about movies for an hour.
Oh my God, yeah, that would be a great episode in and of itself. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me. And I know that today it's nice, it's lovely, cloud, sun.
hmm
What more can you ask for LA
No, it
as
really
far as
is a
the
nice
weather?
day.
Yeah. Yeah, at least for the winter season. I mean, we're starting to get rain again, which is always a huge plus.
Yeah, yeah, big fan of that. Because it's so few and far between that I love a rainy day. If it was raining all the time, I'd be sick of it. But it's nice to sprinkle it in.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how they do it up north, because when you're in Seattle or because I know that it rains like pretty much all the time.
Oh, yeah, it's miserable. It's gray all the time. So, yeah, we're lucky to have the sunshine and warmer weather. And yeah, I love living in LA. I think it's a great city, and I love the weather.
Yeah, it could be pretty interesting because I know if we do a follow-up, it's probably going to be like a a lot warmer, pretty
Yeah,
much hot if
yeah.
we get around to doing another one of these. So, yeah, the summertime, I love the summer, but man, ooh, yeah.
Listen,
Better
it's
keep
hot.
those. You're
It's
just
hot,
abusing
but
the
like
ACs. Yeah.
that's true. That's true. But my family lives in Florida, so nothing
Oh,
like that's way worse. I'm like, I'll take a California summer over a Florida summer any day.
yeah. Boy, trust me, as somebody who is like, because I've been to like Las Vegas and you
hmm
know how hot it gets down there, but
Oh yeah.
Florida, nothing beats Florida. And
No.
apparently Canada as well.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because I know New York is also pretty humid during the summertime as well. So
Yeah, it's super
before I,
muggy.
yeah, it's muggy, but before I kind of ramble on about weather, let's just
Right.
let's talk about you. So, yeah, I guess what I typically ask is, how did you get started? But that's kind of like the go-to
Yeah.
question. So, what I do wanted to frame it as is, where, how would you say that the whole acting bug or just everything that you're doing, when did you think, from your earliest memory, when would you say that it kind of bit you, so to speak?
Well, when I was about 6, 5 or 6, my sister did a show, and this is my older sister, and it was just a little community theater production of Charlotte's Web. And once she did that, I was like, oh, I got to do that too, because I loved my older sister. I mean, I still do. But I wanted to be like her so badly. So anything she did, I wanted to do. So I was in my first show when I was 6, and I was a little Oompa Loompa in a production of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And it was so much fun. And I just never stopped. I kept doing community theater productions. I was in dance classes. I started taking voice lessons. I started doing acting classes as well. Then I got an agent and then I started doing professional theater. So it just kind of all snowballed from there. But yeah, it started when I was very, very little, just being like, wait, that looks kind of fun. And then as I got older, I just started to take it. It was always fun, but I started to take it a little more seriously as I went on as well and like put in a little more work and training behind everything.
Yeah, and as we can kind of see from now, it kind of really paid off.
Thanks. I hope so. It's been a lot of time
Yeah,
invested.
yeah, it's like whenever somebody says like, "Wow, all this work you're doing is paid off," and I'm like, I'm getting there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I mean it's kind of like it's so interesting because I think I've mentioned this before when we were talking like kind of off camera, but I
Mhm.
also did like stage and a little bit of improv, so I kind of have this whole like I kind of get the familiarity of just how it's like just being spontaneous and in the moment and just,
Mhm.
performing in front of others, which is oftentimes can feel kind of, intimidating, but at the same time it can be kind of thrilling. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it just really depends. Like if you're doing it in front of friends to a live audience,
Yeah.
it really does. It makes a huge
Totally.
difference.
It really does.
Yeah, so for you, oh man, there was another question that I had based on that, but I'm blanking. See there, morning. But I do wanted to quickly go back to the theater stuff. So, how much would you say that it also really helped you grow just as a performer, actress, or just pretty much as a person?
I think theater was a great place for me to start versus doing, on camera or starting with voiceover because it is a truly collaborative process. Voiceover can be very isolating if you're recording by yourself in the booth, but when you're on a stage and you're in front of a crowd of people and you've got other people on stage with you, and yeah, like you said, it can be really scary at times and intimidating. So it really requires you to be vulnerable and connect with other actors and other people in the show. So I think it's a great bonding experience and just really helps. It got me more comfortable with acting as a concept. When I wasn't up there alone, it was less scary to be vulnerable, to try things, to be spontaneous, to do improv, to, all of that stuff. And theater as well is the medium that is sort of more inclined to a bigger presence, if you will. On camera is a lot more subtle, a lot more subdued in the acting choices, but when you're on stage, the people in the balcony have to hear you, they have to understand you, they have to see your movements and your emotion. So it really helps you sort of not just connect with those feelings, but learn how to project them. And then when you get into other mediums, you can always rein it back in. But it's easier to start big and then pull it back versus starting small and having to learn how to push it forward. So I'm glad I started, big, loud, and obnoxious, singing and dancing on a stage. And I was able to, learn how to rein it in throughout the years as well.
Yeah, that is so true because a lot of us, we kind of do have the instinct of just being loud, obnoxious, annoying.
Right.
And when we're
Right.
told to pull it back, we're just like, okay, how do I do that when this is literally me. I'm just like a living cartoon character in real life.
Right.
IRL.
Yeah.
I am the ultimate meme lord, IRL. But yeah, it's a really fascinating viewpoint when you're just like, yeah, it's better to go big than, just having to be directed to, just push as far as you possibly can. I mean,
Yeah.
you'd still kind of have experiences like that, but at the end of the day, it's like, if you go big or even be weird, if they have another idea in mind, then you can kind of play around with it a little bit, or just this gives you the go ahead or just the green light to just do something even weirder than what you did before.
Right.
I'm just being straight up.
Yeah. No, I've had a lot of acting professors who have said, I'd rather you just go for it and then I can sort
Exactly.
of
Yep.
steer you in the right direction or pull you back versus like literally trying to pull teeth, trying to like get someone to, express a little bit more. So, yeah, starting with theater really helped me adopt that mentality for sure.
Yeah. And that was just something that really helped me coming along because I did a lot of stage stuff, but then after not really doing it for a couple of years and then going into voiceover, like I just kind of had the notion of just like, because I had no idea what I was doing back then, but now with so much that has just been evolving and changing over the years, especially after the pandemic, it really is kind of like it's a thriving industry, even
Hmm.
though we're kind of still in the middle of a video game strike. I know that there's, still people out. There's still a lot of newcomers, not newcomers, but just a lot of actors that are just coming from all different kinds of backgrounds, like radio, stage, and just now getting their start at voiceover. And they're just, look, the amount of indie projects that I've seen exploding is just, it really
Yeah.
speaks for itself. Yeah,
Yeah, there's a ton of voiceover work out there and ton of auditions if you know where to look, because like you
exactly.
said, there's a huge indie scene, but there's so many branches of voiceover. You can get into audiobooks, commercials, promo, animation, video games, there are so many avenues to go. And there is voiceover in like everything, The self-checkout machine at the grocery store, that's voiceover, So there are so many little opportunities everywhere, which is a little overwhelming at first, I feel, you kind of don't know where to go, what to focus on, where to find auditions. But it's nice to know that, as long as you keep trying, there's always an avenue to explore.
Exactly. I mean, you can even voice in a Super Bowl commercial, by the way. Shout out to some of my colleagues that did a few commercials yesterday. Love you.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
literally, like it's everywhere. There's commercials on TV, there's commercials on the radio, there are there are movie trailers, like there's so much to explore.
exactly. And I'm also just saying the indie projects because stick around for the very end as I shamelessly self-plug my own little series. So stay tuned for that. Yeah,
Exactly.
trust me. I think you kind of know what I'm referring to, Olivia.
Yeah.
So we'll definitely
Yeah.
talk more about it towards the end. So yeah, but yeah, like you mentioned, there's like animation, there's video games, audiobooks, and all this, pretty much everything that you just mentioned. So, what would you say is kind of like your bread and butter? Kind of like a interesting type of
Well,
question for,
honestly,
yeah.
I feel like I'm still so early in my
Yeah,
career
you're
that
just
I
trying to
still
find
kind of do a little
the
bit of
niche,
everything.
would you say? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So there's nothing that like, oh, I'm making real headway in this and now I'm just like always booking animation. Like I just still do like a little bit here and there. I'm happy to book anything at this point. So I wouldn't say there's anything that's like truly my niche yet, but honestly, if I could pick one, I would pick animation or video games. Yeah, of course, like I feel like that's what everyone would pick, but I love the narrative. Hit my mic, sorry. I love the narrative mediums and stories within voiceover. Commercial, of course, like that's where most of the auditions are. It's where a lot of the money is. So that's something I'll always explore as well. But I think the most fun stuff is animation and video games.
yeah. I think for me right now, it's definitely a lot of animation and video games, but
Yeah.
I'm starting to branch out more into like narration and commercials. We'll
Oh
see how
yeah,
that
yeah,
goes.
yeah.
Yeah, because
Nice.
I know that those are kind of like also really they're also nice when you just wanted to just sit down and relax and just do that conversational read and know more of those Sunday spots that you hear like pretty
Yeah,
much when you're a
exactly.
kid.
Yeah,
I mean, those are fine. Don't get me wrong. We've all mimicked those, but I'm
for
just,
sure.
yeah. Like I said, the times have been a changing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But it's pretty interesting how much everything has kind of been, where we are right now. So I think that kind of does segue into how, with acting and doing theater and doing a lot of the stuff that you've been doing, like getting all that training in, how would you say that it also helped you when you first started making the transition into VO, or how you kind of discovered it per se?
Well, it helped just to have the basics of acting, studying different acting styles and teachings. It's very important for voiceover. I feel like a lot of people they worry about the voice itself, being able to do impressions and sound different ways. But really, the basis of it has to be acting. Otherwise, like, you're not going to be giving a believable performance. You're just going to be doing a voice, and they're going to end up casting someone who's doing a an actual, performance. So it was good that I had those touchstones already. So I still very much got caught up in the beginning, I think, of like trying to figure out what kind of voices I could do. But then I feel like I could pull back and be like, okay, let's focus on the acting though, and ask myself, what's my objective and what's my relationship to the person I'm talking to, and all those like questions that you ask yourself and the text work that you do beforehand. So that definitely helped prep me for success in voiceover.
Yeah, for sure. As somebody with a Meisner trained background, who are you talking to? What is happening? The five W's of acting is
Hmm.
very much applies to how most of us record on. I mean, everybody's different. Nobody is kind of like the same. We all have our unique, I guess, methods, if that's the right. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Everyone
so
has their
we
own
all kind of
process.
we
Yeah.
we process different, and we all approach in a like a story. Like I don't really approach it as like an audition. I approach it as more as like creating a story as
Hmm.
a believable character. Yeah, this is I had to thank Richard Horvitz for that one. Love you, Richard. So, yeah, it's pretty much the art of playing pretend. We just don't really think about, oh, what should I sound like? Who is this character? Like, am I Lex Luthor? Should I have like a big deep? We just kind of did it. It's kind of like a sandbox in the playground. We didn't really get too self-conscious about what we look like or anything. But I think when we start becoming adults, where it's like, oh, okay, now we have to learn so many different. I mean, it's not that like I'm not saying that learning from different coaches or professors or like directors is bad. Like getting as much feedback as you can is possible, like from different perspectives. But yeah, I think a lot of us can kind of get too self-conscious about like, did I not suck? You
Right.
know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah. No, that's definitely part of it.
Yeah, for sure. Um, and how would you say? Oh, I think you kind of answered this, but I think I was gonna ask, like, how would you say that acting on stage or theater is different from when you're, acting in front of a microphone? And what's more fun, and what would you say is more challenging from your perspective?
Hmm. Well, I think the biggest difficulty with voiceover is that you don't have a physical space to interact with, So when you're on camera or when you're on stage, you can move, you have costumes involved, you have set pieces, you have props, you have things that can kind of function as touchstones when you're acting, and you have people that you can play off of. And sometimes in voiceovers, you might do a session with another actor so you can hear them and you're actually interacting. But, you're in a booth. When I'm recording from home, I'm in my closet, I don't have a lot of space to move. Plus, you have to worry about staying in front of your mic. So you really can't move that much. There are no costumes, there are no props, there's no setting around you. So you really have to build that whole world in your imagination. You have to really know your script, know your character, because you don't have anything that you can really use as a crutch. Now, personally, I love that. I love being able to really just play into my imagination. And another big part of voiceover is that they don't see you. Obviously, when it's animation or video games, like there's going to be a character that they can see that is, emoting and sharing all of this dialogue that you're saying. But while you're recording it, what you're feeling has to come through in your voice. Whereas, like when you're on camera, yes, it'll come through your voice, but people are more worried about the visuals, I find, what you look like if we can see in your body language and in your face that, you're believing what you're saying. But now you kind of have to channel all of it into just your voice when you're voice acting. And I think that that's a really special and a really cool process that I had to learn. I had to learn how to sort of bring everything in and channel it into this one point. So that's the biggest challenge and the biggest difference I'd say.
Yeah, it is pretty. It can be serendipitous when you really start applying it into action. How everything that you've learned on stage and then doing it in front of a microphone with its own, sets of pros and cons. Yeah,
Hmm.
it could be kind of like a culture shock in a way.
Yeah, yeah, it's very different and it can feel very isolating at first to just be in the booth, but even though you're just talking to yourself into a mic, your character that you're playing, they're talking to somebody. You got to keep that in mind.
So, out of all, oh boy, it's like picking a child, but what would you say were the roles or character? What have been some of your favorite, projects that you've done so far? Just in
Mm.
general in your career.
Well, hmm, this might be sort of a weird way to go with my answer because it's actually one of my favorite projects that I got to be a part of was a live action dubbing project. And I know a lot of times people love to, originate their own roles and their characters. And I certainly have, animation and video game roles that I've loved. But I did a live action dubbing project for Netflix. And I didn't even originate the dubbing voice. I was a voice match in like season 3 or 4 for the role of Nadia in Elite on Netflix. And it was my first ever dubbing project. It was my first time recording in a studio. So I wasn't in my house. I was in a gorgeous studio in like Sherman Oaks. And it was just so exciting. And I loved it so much because it was, with live action dubbing, they're very grounded performances. You're trying to sound as naturalistic as possible. The only voice I was doing was just talking a little lower to try to do this voice match. But for the most part, it was a very emotional performance as well. It's a very serious show. It's a drama. There's crying. She, spoiler, like breaks up with her boyfriend and there's all this huge drama. And with dubbing, you're not doing your own performance. You're trying to match the performance you're watching in the original language with the original actors. So the show's originally in Spanish, and we watch the scene, and I get to watch this actress, like, you know, acting her heart out and like these big dramatic scenes. And then you watch the scene once, and then it's like, okay, go. And it's like karaoke, trying to say your words in English at the same time, matching the same emotion. And I just loved that challenge. I loved getting to connect with this actress who filmed this, months ago on the other side of the world and get to try to find that same emotion and connection. And I ended up being really proud of the work that we did and the emotions that we found and, being brought to tears. It was really, really cool. And then they wrote the character off the show, and I was really bummed about it. And then out of the blue, a few years later, I got an email that she came back in the last season of the show. So I got to record for her again. I was so happy. And of course, it was more really great, like just really meaty scenes. So it was fun to, it's like a combination of on-camera work that like really grounded, really focused emotion, but also just the skill of dubbing. And yeah, I think that was one of my favorite projects to be a part of.
Yeah, and that's not even getting into some of your other work because you've done a lot of dubbing for Pokemon and you've even done original animation for just recently I saw that you were the Mummy Girl
Oh
and
yeah. Oh, I love
yeah,
Mummy Girl.
yeah. So you've done like some animation and audio dramas and yeah,
Yes,
we
yeah.
we would love to would go more in, we would take a more dive, like an in-depth dive into each of these performances,
Yeah.
but I don't know how much we could really go off of, like, I don't know, a 30 or 60-minute interview. So yeah,
Right.
we could just talk about some of those
Yeah, yeah.
because yeah, because I know with Pokemon in particular, it's kind of like a big. I wish I was wearing a Pokemon t-shirt, but no. I do have a
Yeah.
Pikachu plush in the corner somewhere, but yeah, because I know that the franchise is kind of like it is one of those franchises where if you were a 90s or 2000s kid, everywhere. It was everywhere, man. Like I'm
Yeah.
talking trading cards, video games, toys, plushies, anime, the, they even had their own musicals, which is
Yeah.
pretty. I mean, anything can be a musical. Let's just be real. But
Right.
yeah, I just wanted to say for Pokemon and pretty much everything else that I mentioned, getting to work on all of these. Did you find yourself to be very much, because I mentioned before, getting to grow a lot as a voiceover artist and a performer? Would you say that these were also just great for like dubbing and also getting like just what's the right phrase? Like, just getting dipping your toes into the field of, of the industry more and more as you started working on these projects?
Yeah, I mean, the two you listed, like Hero Inside, getting to play Mummy Girl on Hero Inside, and voicing Nimona and Pokemon Paldean
Yeah.
Winds, like those those are also two of my favorite projects. Like those were just they were such fun sessions. They're very high energy. With Nimona, I got to do like a Pokemon battle. Like that's again like a childhood dream come true. And I remember when I got that audition in my inbox, they didn't say what it was for. It was like top secret, but they kind of were like, but if you can figure it out, like we can't stop you.
Yeah, I
And I could
think
tell.
that's the. Sorry, I think that was the story of. I think it was Christina. Somebody said that when they got the Sailor Moon auditions, it was like very top secret. Like,
Yes,
yeah,
yeah.
hush hush. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was super hush hush, but in the dialogue, they had to do like they had some Pokemon call outs. And I was like, okay, well, this has to be Pokemon, like totally. So I was like Googling and researched it and I like decoded it. And I was like, oh my God.
It
So
is
I
Pokemon.
it is. I was like, oh my gosh. But I didn't know what it was for. I didn't know, the dub for Horizons hadn't been done yet. So I was like, I don't know if it's for this. I don't know what it's for. Paldean Winds hadn't even been announced. So it was a complete surprise when I actually booked it. And when I got the email that I booked it, I was like, no way. No way. So that was like, oh gosh, that was crazy. That was so much fun. And for Mummy Girl as well, that was a great time as well because playing a superhero, she only gets the concept of the show is that they summon these superheroes from comic books. So I'm really only summoned to go like beat somebody up and then I go back into my book. So it's a lot of like efforts, it's a lot of high energy, like really tough, really fun, but also the show is like pretty fun and pretty over the top. I mean, it's animation, so you push the characters a little bit. So that was super fun as well to again just be in my closet like pretending to throw punches. It was a great time.
Right on. And for audiobooks and audio dramas, because you've also done a fair share of them. So
Mhm.
explain the. I've already done previous episodes talking about, audio, but from your perspective, how's it like?
Well, audio dramas, if you're just voicing, one character, uh, it's very similar, I find, to any other narrative work or like animation or video games. You get to focus on this one character and building it out. But if you're working on an audiobook where you are narrating the whole thing and reading all the dialogue, it's a lot of work. It is many, many hours in the booth, and it's a marathon. And that was something I was a little, I feel like, unprepared for when I recorded an audiobook series. And you have to find ways to, find distinctions and nuance between every single character you're reading dialogue for. And there could be 20 characters, and some of them are kids, and some of them are old men. And I don't sound like an old man, and I don't want to put on this really fake old man voice. You want to keep it still pretty neutral. So you have to find like subtle ways to differentiate these characters. So Yeah, that was an interesting kind of hurdle to overcome was just kind of having the stamina to record an audiobook. But it was really cool. It was really cool. I grew up reading out loud to my little brother. I read the entire Harry Potter series out loud to him growing up, the Hunger Games series out loud. So I had a little bit of experience, but I got to pace it out to like a chapter a day. Whereas for an audiobook, they wanted multiple chapters a day, multiple hours of audio, like this. So I was like, whew, okay, let me get my throat coat tea, let me get my water, and let me go stand in my closet for 3 hours.
Yeah, and now I just hit my mic.
Yeah, it happens. I've hit it like 10 times probably.
At this point. Yeah, that's because we're just so expressive. Can
I
you
can't
already
help
tell?
it. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Which is why we're perfect for animation. Who would have thunk it?
Who'd have thunk?
Yeah, exactly. So I think this kind of does bring an interesting question. What is your process of getting to prepare for like the more, because you did mention like some of the characters that you played that are like high energy, but I guess
Hmm.
for some of the more emotionally driven parts, what is the process behind that? As in like, oh, sorry. I meant
Well,
as in like, when you're getting to play a character that is like really emotion and it's a very heavy, you know,
yeah.
yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah. Well, the process is pretty similar, honestly. Um, I'll do, my vocal warm-ups, some breath work, some straw phonation. I do a lot of tongue twisters to make sure I'm pronouncing my words very clearly, just wake everything up a little bit just in like my body. But when it comes to the emotional side of things, I'll ask myself all the same questions. I'll establish my characters in the same way of like, where are they living? What is their upbringing? What are some defining character traits? What are some things to keep in mind? What are their vocal qualities? What is their age? I have this whole sort of list of questions I answer to kind of flesh it all out. But, my approach, I'll just have a little more high energy and like positivity and excitement when I'm getting ready for those high energy ones. And when I'm getting ready for a more grounded, hit my mic, more grounded or like more emotional performance, again, we'll still go through those same questions, the same warm-ups, but I'll have a more like meditative state of mind and just be a lot more calm and controlled in the way that I'm warming up. But the process is actually pretty similar.
Yeah, because it's like I mentioned before, the process of getting into the story and the character just, it depends. It differs for everyone.
Hmm.
And I know this is kind of like another, sort of go-to question, but who would you say inspired you to do VO or just in general, acting, singing, all the jazz? See what I did there?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I loved watching like cartoons as a kid, and my brother and I would always then go on IMDb and try to see like this person voiced this character and this character and this character. That's
Oh,
so crazy.
yeah.
So like a name that's sticking out to me now is like Rob Paulson. He voiced so much of my childhood and he remains like so active in the voiceover community. He's really active on social media and he's so kind to fans and he even ended up seeing like one of my TikToks once and followed me on TikTok and I DM'd him and was like, "Oh my gosh, like thank you, thank you." And he was like, no, like, of course, like, you're really talented, and I hope we get to work on a project together one day. And just like being such a shining light while also having like a world of voices within him, he's a big inspiration for me, and it's definitely someone I looked up to before I even realized I wanted to be a voice actor.
That is so cool. I did not even know about the Rob Paulson tick. I kind of
Yeah,
forgot
it
he
was
even had a
crazy.
TikTok.
Yeah, I don't post on it much anymore.
I
But
mean, to
yeah,
be
no,
fair,
it's
yeah, I
crazy.
think I deleted mine a while back because I didn't really have much use for it anymore anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
And plus, with whatever happened with oh, like what happened to TikTok, blah, 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 blah. But yeah,
Yeah,
I
it
don't
still
really
might
pay
disappear.
attention.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's we'll see. Who knows?
We'll see.
Unless if whatever happens, I'm not gonna get too
Hmm.
political here. But yeah, that's so cool how Rob just kind of, I guess, discovered. But it's so weird where you just post something on like social media and then all of a sudden you just get somebody just checking out your like a voice actor that you admired for so long, and
Hmm.
then they just check out your work, and now it's like, oh, they follow me, but oh boy, now how am I gonna how am I gonna
Now,
keep that? Oh boy, now I gotta actually, I'm not worthy. Ah.
no, I know. I think about every time I go to post, I'm like, Rob Paulson might see this. Like,
Oh, he might see this. Oh, now
is
I gotta
is this embarrassing if Rob Paulson sees this
raise
right
my
now?
standards a bit.
Like, I can't like clown around on TikTok anymore. Like, it's got to be good stuff now.
It has to be good. No
Right,
more of
right,
those silly impression videos. Now it's like, oh, I gotta actually try with this.
right. No,
I gotta put
literally.
effort.
Yeah.
For real. But what is something that is the most creatively fulfilling or rewarding about your endeavors?
Um, that's a good question. I honestly think that I connect with others through art a lot of the time. I love exploring the human experience and a lot of the emotional sides of life that we don't often, touch on every single day because it can be really heavy or it can be a lot. It can feel really intense. And I love diving deep into people's psyches and learning everything about a person. So I love getting to learn everything about a character and apply what I learn through my creative endeavors to the world around me, And a lot of my friends are actors, and we get to connect about, you know, these really deep thoughts about like what it means to be a human and like to love and to connect and to grieve and to all these big things. So I think it's just, my creative endeavors are so tied with like my emotional well-being and growth as a person that it just fuels me and I love it so much. I love connecting with others.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same, just learning about the psyche of other characters and then
Hmm.
just putting my own creative spin on them is something that is just, it's been a part of me. Like, I just love getting to do this for like the last 20-ish or so years, and hey, it's not going to stop anytime soon.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I think we'll probably have to conclude this in the next part. So if you enjoyed this so far, like, subscribe, YouTube, blah. So, and I'll see you all in the finale. Alrighty, see you guys in a bit. Bye. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and yeah, we're just about wrapping this up here, but before we do, I just have a couple more questions regarding like vocal tech. I mean, you kind of already, I think Olivia kind of gave her own like, advice on vocal warm-ups and technique and what she does, but yeah, regarding like self-care or mental health, all that stuff, like what's your advice on the vocal exercises, or if you do anything that helps get your body in shape for the day?
Hmm.
Let's hear it. Yeah, physical
Uh,
fitness, workout, all
yeah,
that
for
stuff.
me,
I'm all for that.
me too, me too. For me, like my physical, mental, and emotional health are so tied. And at times when my mental health is lacking, I find that emotionally I'm struggling as well. And also, like, then you don't have the energy to, go for a walk or go to the gym. So if you can start with one of them, it will often help pull the other ones up as well. So I love to go for a walk. I love to get outside, get some fresh air, move my body a little bit. I always find that I feel better afterwards. Times when I'm at my lowest, I will go for walks for hours. You know,
Bro,
anything to
just like me for
clear my
real.
mind, like anything to clear my mind. And yeah, so I love to, stretch as well. Anything to help get me back in my body that will also help ground my mental and emotional health as well. And last year, I started getting into going into the gym. And, to be completely honest, I always had a very tumultuous relationship with the gym and with working out. I had a really toxic mindset around it. But last year was the first year I really kind of found a positive relationship with it, just going to work out for the feeling that I get from it, for that positive feeling and for the grounding, not because I'm like trying to look a certain way or lose weight or, it all came from a very positive place and it's helped me so much. So I think if you can get outside and go for a walk, it'll change your life.
It does wonders for me every
It
time I go
really
out.
does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes a world of difference. So,
Yeah, it really does.
yeah, just got to get that vitamin D when it's
hmm
sunny.
Yeah, yeah. And I just find that like it helps bring my energy up as well. So tying that into sort of vocal warm-ups as well, I like to not just, say my tongue twisters. Like I like to stretch before I record, even just an audition, like not just before a session, but I like to help wake up every part of my body. I will like make all these crazy faces to like warm up the muscles in my face, just to kind of activate everything because even though for voice acting they're only recording your voice will sound more present and your acting will be more present if your whole body is awake. I mean, I am guilty of sometimes getting in the booth and I'm like in my pajamas and I'm like, "Ugh, let me just get this done. But your best work is gonna come when you like actually wake up every part of you.
I mean, to be fair, most of us really work. Just we get out of bed and then we literally just go in our PJs. There's no
Yeah.
shame. There's no, I
Yeah.
mean, no guilt, nothing. It's just we're just kind of we're just like immediately once our brains are on, we're just like, okay, time to get this work done, and we don't worry
Right.
about traffic or outside
Right. Right.
or anything outside circumstances beyond our control. You know what I'm saying?
hmm
Yeah. I think that's kind of what I do, like stretches, workout, walking, especially on a beach is also really nice. I
hmm
just really love the beaches. So,
Yeah.
yeah. But since you've mentioned you grew up with cartoons and video and pretty much everything you mentioned, because you did
hmm
mention Harry Potter, list your obsessions.
Oh, well, I've always been a big Disney fan. I grew up um in Ohio and every single family vacation was to Disney World or a Disney cruise. And I loved Disney movies. I loved going to the parks. When I was in high school, my family moved to Orlando and then I had an annual pass, so I like lived at Disney World. So that was also a big like, that's a big goal and dream of mine is to get to work on a Disney project or voice something in a Disney park, even if it's just like the safety spiel before a ride. Like, oh, I would love that. So while I feel like I'm not quite as active of a Disney nerd now, which is kind of a lie because like right in front of me I have this little like Tigger
I
stuffed
mean,
animal.
I yeah, I
Um,
know I've got some Disney stuff around me. I know I just have like a Pluto necklace that I got
yeah.
from years ago, so
Yeah, it's
I
like I
know it's
really can't afford
somewhere
to be a
anywhere.
Disney
Yeah.
fan now
And I
because
still got
I can't afford.
DuckTales
Yeah.
t-shirts.
No, so I'm a huge Disney fan for sure. And within that now, also that includes Star Wars and Marvel. I again sort of I'm behind on all the Star Wars and Marvel media. There's a lot of shows I haven't
I'm
watched
just
yet.
behind on a lot of the Disney stuff now. You're not the only one.
hmm Yeah, no, I've fallen behind. I guess that's what like being an adult is. But
Exactly.
um
Yeah.
but yeah, I was super into that as well. Those were the obsessions for sure.
Yeah. And since you mentioned Animaniacs and Rob Paulson earlier, oh wait, you didn't mention Animaniacs, but since you mentioned
Which is
Rob, I
Rob
mean,
Paulson, yeah.
yeah, Warner Brothers, a lot of the Disney stuff for sure. I mean, I
hmm
grew up with the, oh my gosh. Do you remember when they used to do like those sing-along VHS tapes?
Yes. Yeah, the
Yeah,
Disney ones.
yeah, the Disney, the sing-along, I think they were called sing-along songs. I had
Yes,
the
they
Colors of
were.
the Wind VHS, and you know, it was, I would just have like the Colors of the Wind song from Pocahontas just played in my memory for just since I was like 4 or 5. It just still plays in my mind, just for
Yeah, I
rewinding the
love that
tape
song.
over and over and over again.
Yeah, my
Yeah, the
sister and
soundtrack.
I,
Yeah.
we used to do with our neighbor had a cousin around our age, and the three of us used to put on little shows like in our basement,
Oh my
little
God.
princess shows, and I always sang Colors of the Wind. Like I always loved that song.
Yeah, and the soundtrack is a huge banger though.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
most
it's
of the Disney
fantastic.
songs are just fantastic, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like I said, it's been a minute or two since I've seen any new Disney related stuff, but such as being an adult. But going
Yeah.
moving
Womp
past from
womp.
Disney, yeah, like Warner Brothers, I mean Looney Tunes, you had
Oh yeah.
Animaniacs,
Yeah.
Batman, like pretty much that whole era
Yeah.
was like, man, what I want to give to go back to those times, boy.
Simpler times, man.
To
Simpler
simpler
times.
times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we had the Cartoon Network, the Nickelodeon, the Kids
hmm
WB, Toon Disney.
Yeah.
God, man. I think I should
Yeah.
probably do like an episode just talking about 90s, 2000s nostalgia.
Yeah. No, I would tune in because we had it good, okay? And of
We
course,
really
like
did.
there's still great shows on Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network and all that,
Yeah.
but now the goal is different. Now it's the goal is to voice in one of those shows instead of, wake up on a Saturday morning and watch them, you know?
Oh my God, you're right. Wow. Uh, the existential crisis hitting me.
Yeah. It kills me a little bit because Hero Inside, the show that I recorded Mummy Girl for, it airs on Cartoon Network internationally, but in the
Sweet.
States, it's on the Roku channel. And I'm like, why can't it be
Wow.
on Cartoon Network here too? You
Yeah,
know?
I think most of the stuff now it's either streaming Netflix or just a lot of the streaming channels. I think those are pretty much
Yeah.
what people are tuning in to now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or
But
they're
it's
just
still
on Oh, sorry.
no, I was gonna say it still blows my mind to see like Cartoon Network, like YouTube, their YouTube account posting clips
Yeah.
of it, or like, they've got a page for the show on their website and it's there's coloring pages for the show. And so it's crazy that to think that I'm even a part of it, you know? So
Yeah.
hopefully maybe I'll get on a show that I can also watch on Cartoon Network. But
Exactly.
but if I were to, go to London, I could, you know?
Yeah. But I think we're in a generation where I think a lot of the kids or everybody is kind of glued to like iPad screens. So we
Yeah.
gotta make pump out content that just keeps just keep the attention, not to let their
Yeah.
attention spans just go to something else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, like, look, as somebody who does a podcast and I've been doing this for a while, I know that not everybody is going to have like an hour just to listen to us just ramble about nerdy stuff.
Right. Right.
As much as it was before. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, times have been a changing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think I mentioned before, like, any favorite projects, but what would you say if you were to look back to any event, any specific project that you've done that made you just completely reevaluate and just reflect on why you love doing this. Like you just wake up in the morning and be like,
Mm.
man, I'm just so grateful and blessed to still do this for a living.
Um, it was probably Pokemon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that session was actually at 6 in the morning.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
6 a.m.
So
your time?
6 a.m.
Pacific.
my time. Yeah. Because I was recording remotely and they were based in New York. So that was 9 a.m. for them, top of their
Yeah.
day. But yeah, I had recorded, I had had one super short session because you see Nimona for like literally one line in the first episode. So all I'd gotten to do was like one sentence as this character. Now this was the big battle sequence and they wanted to record it. It was like a Thursday and I was going out of town that day. So I was like, okay, I have to do it early in the morning. And I woke up at like 4 a.m. in preparation for it because I wanted my voice to be able to warm up. I didn't want to sound like I was half asleep. So I needed time to wake up, do my warm ups, like set everything up, make sure it was all ready to go. And my poor neighbors like probably heard me like yelling, literally shouting in the booth at 6 in the morning, doing like, calling out like Pokemon moves and like all this stuff. But I was so excited. I had so much energy and, everyone on the call was like excited about it too. And because it was dubbing, I can see the fully animated episode and they'll check the dialogue afterwards. So I'll watch the clip, I'll record it to try to match the timing, and then they'll play it back um, to make sure it looks good. So I would get to watch it too because they're sharing their screen with me. So I'd immediately get to see this gorgeous animation like this, and it's the only anime project I've ever worked on. And I hear my voice coming out of it. It's 6 in the morning. I'm like, my mind is blown. And I was like, I am so lucky to be doing this right now. And like, it's such a, like I said earlier, like a childhood dream come true. That's one of those bucket list items I did not think I was going to be checking off anytime soon, if at all. So yeah, even though I was so wired, I wasn't even tired, even though I'd gotten up so early. And it just was like, yeah, this is so cool.
Yeah, because it is just one of those surreal moments where you're in the booth and it still hasn't even quite registered. Like, oh my, I am actually doing this.
Yeah,
Is this really
yeah,
happening? Just pinch me. Just one of those pinch me, this must be a dream type of
right,
moments.
right. And there was another project that I kind of had that moment with too, but it hit me later. I recorded for this video game called Linked Banner of the Spark, and it's created by FuzzyBot. So they're a newer indie video game company headed by Max Spielberg, who is Steven Spielberg's son. And I'm one of the player character voices, and it's no dialogue, it's just efforts. So the whole session was like, it was so funny because you have to do like 10 different jump efforts, 10 different like affirmation, like nod or whatever. But also in the game, it's supposed to be in like another planet. So there's no if I'm saying like an affirmation, I can't even say yes. I can't say any English words. They're all just sounds. And so it was a huge challenge. And then there's also combat in the game. So different levels of like effort. So just, a small hit versus like a big power up hit. And I feel very silly in my booth, like doing all these like yells and efforts and everything. And it was such a fun session. We had a great time. I was in my closet and I was like, well, that was very silly. Like that was cool. And then a few months later, they announced the game at the Game Awards. And they had like Max Spielberg on a stage and like big screens like showing gameplay and pictures from the game. And they had a trailer for the game. And then he went on to be like, someone was like, oh, has your dad seen stuff about the game? And they're like, oh, yeah, yeah, he's really excited for it. I've shown him some stuff. And I was like, whoa,
Wow.
this is a
So
cool, I'm a
you,
part of this.
wow.
Hold
And you're
on.
kind of, and if Steven Spielberg managed to somehow
Right. So I was like,
listen
oh,
to,
if he was taken through the game, like he
he
might
must
have
have listened
heard
to
my
you. He might have heard
voice.
you. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's what I
And
was saying.
it's not really me talking. It's just like, ha, but it's me,
It's
And
me.
it's like it was so fun to record, but like the scale of like, oh, this is a bigger project than I might have realized. Like seeing it at the Game Awards and stuff too. That was one that like it hit me later when I was seeing the trailers and stuff come out. Which, by the way, Linked Banner of the Spark is available on early access on Steam. You can check it out.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah. Just gotta get that plug. Just gotta
Yeah,
get
and
that out of the
see if
way.
you can figure out which voice option is mine, because there are a few.
Yeah, there are quite a few, but
Yeah.
yeah, I just wanted to ask real quick, I don't think I've asked this when we talked the last time, but did you
Mhm.
grow up with the franchise Pokemon? I
I
know it's like
did.
on a bucket list, but yeah, I just
Yeah,
wanted.
yeah, yeah. So I wasn't like the most like invested in it. If it was on TV, I'd watch it, but I'm sure I did not see every episode. You know what I mean? Like I was not religious about keeping up with every episode, but like when the movies would come out, I'd see the movies. My older brother was like super into it. I really loved playing like the Pokemon like video games. I had Pokemon Snap on N64
Ooh, wow, yeah,
and
we're going
Stadium on
back.
N64 as well.
Yeah.
So I've played those a lot. So Yeah, those were my favorites. So I grew up with the franchise, but I was not
Yeah,
I couldn't name like all of the original Pokemon,
exactly. It's I
It's a
mean,
lot.
there are people who can, and yet yeah, it's just still a lot to really keep up. But I know that Pokemon is such a massive franchise, and keeping up with every single episode or content that comes out is yeah, you must be
A
a
big
real
task.
super mega fan. It's a big task. Just that's
Yeah.
why I tell people all the time that are just like, "Oh yeah, I watch every episode of One Piece," and I'm just like, "All 1,000 episodes?" Yeah.
Yeah. How?
Wow, you have way
How?
more time than I do. And that's not
Yeah.
even getting to the episodes. Like, if I'm asking a voice actor who actually did work on the show, that's like,
Uh-huh.
man, that is way more than I do. And I don't even watch the episodes that I'm even in.
Right.
For real.
Right.
Like, that's just, it's crazy to me, you know?
Yeah. But what's cool about Pokemon is that even if people haven't watched the show or they didn't collect the cards as a kid, like they've heard of it. And they know what it is.
Exactly. Yeah. They know.
And
They
I've
know.
had, I'm sure you relate to this as well, but like I know so many people that they hear I'm a voice actor and they're like, "Oh, what have you done? Like, is there anything that I
What
would
did you
know?"
do?
And like most of the time I'm like, "Well, wouldn't have heard of this indie game and you wouldn't have paid attention to this like radio ad that aired in,
They just
Connecticut."
be
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, so
They'd
I'm
just
like,
be like, what?
yeah, so it was like all these things nobody knew, but finally I could be like, Pokemon? I
You
did
know the
something for that.
Pokemon I
Yeah.
did? I'm like,
And then all of a
say
sudden they're
what?
like, "Whoa, oh, okay, cool, cool." So I was like,
Show me.
finally,
Or let
something that
me,
the people know.
yeah. Or it's either that, or show me, or do the art, do the voice.
Yeah, to like do something right now. I'm like,
Do something right
no.
now. Right now.
Yeah, instead I can be like, look up episode 2 of Pokemon Paldean Winds. You can hear me there.
Just, yeah. Just do it. Do it. Do it.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. But anyway, but it's just been a lot of fun, just talking about this with you. But I, I'm not sure if I have any more. Oh, I mean, I did have questions pertaining to, getting into SAG or stuff like that. But honestly, those, you could probably find any episode that I might have done with somebody who is more knowledgeable when it comes to union. Yeah, because I've done
Yeah.
episodes in the past where we talk about the unionizing process and, you know, but I know since you're a member of SAG, how much would you say, joining the union has been it's really been super helpful for your career so far, at least from
Yes.
your two
Yes
cents.
and no.
Yeah,
It's there are a lot of non-union voiceover projects out there.
exactly. Yeah,
Um, and a lot of ones that pay well as well. You can definitely have a full-time lucrative career as a voice actor without joining the union. I was, the way joining the union works is that you can get hired for a union project as a non-union actor, and you'll fill out a form called a Taft-Hartley. Now, the second time you work on a union project as a non-union actor and you've already been Taft-Hartley, you become a need to join. So you can only work on that project if you join the union. So what happened, as I mentioned earlier, that dubbing project I'd worked on for Netflix, the Elite. When I first joined the show, we did everything in like the same time frame. So it all counted under one Taft-Hartley as far as I'm aware. But a few years later, when I the character returned for the final season, it was a new contract, still a union project, and they were like, "Oh, well, we you Taft Hartley'd you last time, so now you're a need to join." And I wanted to do the project. I didn't want them to have to recast the role, so I had to join the union. And there are a lot of union projects out there for sure, especially in animation and video games. But, it's also, I feel like a higher caliber of auditions. I always think about when I do get like an audition for a really cool project, I think about all the huge names in the industry I know that work on union projects. And I'm like, that's my competition. That is who is also auditioning for this. So, yeah, and it's a bummer too because especially with there's a lot of great non-union ads as well that pay really well. So for me, it made sense to join the union because I had to for a project. but also because I do want to work in film and television as well. And that is, unless you're working on like a student or an indie project, like that's all union work. So, you just have to figure out which avenue works for you. And no matter which route you want to go, I'd say wait to join the union until you have to, because it's a hefty initiation fee and there are expensive dues on it as well. And you want to be able to work non-union work for as long as possible. So that's my little piece of advice.
Right on. And you say that you're repped with an agent and just
Yeah, I freelance. I freelance with ACM, so I'm not officially signed. So that means I can also work with other agents as well. So again, that's a setup that works for me at the moment, just freelancing. But, some people want a little more hands-on, personal time with an agent or a manager. They want to be signed with like a boutique agency, so they get to really like work on crafting their career one-on-one with an agent. So again, it really depends on kind of the route you want to go. There is no set path to success in the entertainment industry. There are so many different avenues you can explore and so many ways you can go about auditioning. So yeah, for now I freelance with ACM Talent. I've really enjoyed it so far. Um, I get a lot of really fun auditions from them and yeah.
yeah, pretty dope.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, we can also discuss like social media and just really branding, getting your name out there, but that's also part of like the essential business tools that I think a lot of people have, but I think some have still managed to do pretty well without social media, so it's kind of like a double-edged sword, you know?
Yeah, I think some people aren't big fans of social media. They don't want to have to like
Yeah.
make content, but you have to put yourself out there in some way. So maybe your route will be more like direct marketing, pitching yourself in emails, submitting to casting rosters, as long as you're trying to connect with other people, it can be in an email, it can be in a phone call, it can be in social media. As long as you're doing something to try to get your work out there,
Exactly.
that's what matters.
Yeah. I think since we're coming to the end of this, share any final thoughts or advice to anybody that wants to do this, and feel free to share your socials, upcoming projects, or just what we can expect to see from store from Olivia.
Oh gosh. Okay. Okay. Well, first of all, my piece of advice would hmm, I would say, if voice acting or acting in general is something that has always piqued your interest or it's something you want to get into, I say go for it. It's a lot of hard work and oftentimes there's a lot of self-doubt that comes in it. There's not a linear path. You'll book something and then you won't, and then you'll book something and then you won't. So I think, the biggest quality, the most important trait to have as an actor is not just talent, but it is stamina. It is persistence and determination. So you've always got to believe in yourself to the point of maybe a little bit of delusion that you're going to make it, that you can keep going and keep auditioning. And yeah, my dream, I mean, it's maybe a little cheesy, but like never give up. Like you put that on a cat poster, put it in your booth. I always say to just keep going and keep trying.
Amen
And
to that.
yeah, and in terms of any upcoming work for me, um, like I said, Linked Banner of the Spark is in early access, so I don't know when the full release will be coming out, but that's available on Steam. I've watched a lot of streamers play it, and I'm bummed that I have a Mac because I want to be able to play it, but you need Windows, so maybe one day they'll port it to Switch. That would be amazing because it looks like a really great game. Um, yeah, other than that, there's not really anything else that I can talk about. So, if you want to keep up with me, you can find me on Twitter at Olivia Vidas VO. I'm also on TikTok, I think just as Olivia Vidas. So yeah, you can find me there.
Yeah, might I just say, love your demos.
Ah, thank you. Thank you. I'm hoping to get some new demos done, but I'll plug my friend Brandon here. So my demos were done by Brandon Hunt. You can find him, I think on Twitter as Bran Hunt VO, maybe. But he is super, super talented. He's an amazing voice actor, a really great friend as well. But he's also a great writer and director and engineer as well. So we had a little meeting to discuss the kind of characters and spots I want to have in my demo. He wrote a bunch of spots. We recorded them all, and he mixed the demos entirely as well. So definitely check him out if he's taking any sort of like commissions right now for demos because he's very, very talented.
Yeah. And what about headshots or resume, everything else that you have on your website? You know what? You could just go on the website and just check
Yeah,
out
you can
all
check
of
out
this.
oliviavidas.com. My
Yeah, for sure.
headshots, I mean, my most recent headshots were taken by my brother and edited by me. So unfortunately, I don't really have a photographer to recommend.
No
But
worries.
um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, that also goes to show that like another piece of advice is don't let the hurdle like financials stand in your way. I know equipment is expensive, workshops are expensive, headshots are expensive. But honestly, just like do what you can with your limited resources. If you have limited resources, I did when I first started, and then just
Everyone
slowly
did.
work towards it, if it means having just like a friend take your headshots, do that until maybe you book something and then use that money to go towards, upgrading if you so wish. So, yeah, do what you can with the resources that you've got, and hopefully you'll be able to make some progress with that.
Yep. Pretty much my advice too. Alrighty, time to have some fun. Let's hear some musical theater
Okay,
show.
I'm gonna preface this by saying that I didn't know I was gonna be singing, so I did not warm up.
My bad,
But
sorry.
listen, I do have experience in musical theater, so now I'm like, okay, well, I better sound good because
Yeah.
I said I did this. Um, so I'm gonna sing a little bit of Part of Your World from The
Ooh,
Little
yeah.
Mermaid.
Okay.
And it's a bit of a basic choice, but um I've sung I when I lived at home, I have a little sister who's 7. And I whenever I'm home, I sing it to her before bed. It's like her routine is that she loves to have people sing her songs before bed, and that is always the song she picks for me. So hopefully I've sung it enough that it'll sound okay. Okay. I wanna be where the people are. I wanna see 'em dancing, walking around on those, what do you call 'em? Oh, feet. Flipping your fins, you don't get too far. Legs are required for jumping, dancing, strolling along down the, what's that word again? Street. Up where they walk, up where they run, up where they stay all day in the sun, wandering free. Wish I could be part of that world. There you go.
Woo! Yeah!
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. Yes, a little Jody Benson. Thank you. Alrighty, and for the closing outro, which is hi, my name is Olivia Vidas or Vidas?
Yeah, Venus.
Vidas, and I've done da 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 da, and this is Station Square Podcast with Robert Jackson. You can do your little spin, sing, or talk, or do a character, whatever. Whatever
All right.
floats. You know what? It's all you. Take it away.
All right. Hi, my name is Olivia Vidas. I'm a voice actor you might have heard in projects like Pokemon Paldean Winds or Hero Inside. And this has been Station Square with Robert Jackson.
Yeah, perfect. Woo woo!
Yay!
Yay! And I guess we can hear like a little character just close us out. I don't know if you want to.
Does it have to be an original character or can it be an impression?
Whichever. I,
Okay.
I don't. Yeah.
Okay, because I kind of been working on a Marge Simpson impression for a bit now,
Oh.
but that's but that's a hard one. That's kind of a hard one. Um, um, yeah, I'm not even gonna try that one.
Yeah,
Or maybe, oh
maybe one of
gosh,
your characters.
one of my
Yeah,
characters.
yeah.
Okay, okay. Well, I feel like a lot of times characters I voice end up just being versions of my own voice. But I will say, Mommy Girl, she is, a lot cooler than I am. So her voice is like a lot lower and a lot tougher. And a lot of times she's in the middle of fighting and can't be bothered. So that's a little bit of Mommy Girl.
Yeah, and how about the Pokemon?
Oh, Nimona? Oh,
No, no,
well,
no, no, not you.
she is just so excited to be battling. Like anyone who knows Nimona knows that like she lives for Pokemon battles, but in a very positive way. So she's super friendly, super happy to be there, and you know, oh gosh, I gotta turn down my gain and get some space in the mic because if I'm calling out to Tauros, then obviously like it's a lot of high energy, excited to be there, and we're gonna have a great battle.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like the perfect way to close out this little fun little episode. So,
Yeah.
yep, with all both of us here, yep. So there you have it. And honestly, character demo is up on the website, and you can
Hmm.
also check out more of her stuff. So if we were to do like a character like showcase, we probably would be like another 5, 10 minutes or so. Yeah, trust me. I mean, even though it's fine, but yeah, maybe we'll show off some, we'll hear some more characters. Probably the next time, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
I can work on some stuff. Yeah.
yeah, definitely more stuff that we can discuss. So thank you so much for watching, and thank you to everybody who tuned into this, and have a good day, have a good, February, the rest of February, and yeah, God bless, and I'll see you all next time, and stay tuned for more Station Square and more Solomon Shrine coming soon. My own little series, if you're interested. But anyways, take care, y'all. Peace.